This happened last year. I wasn't running from the law. I wasn't in danger. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. I was 22, burnt out, mentally fried, sleeping 3 hours a night, jumping every time my phone buzzed. You ever reach a point in your life where you start feeling like you're watching yourself from outside your body? That was me. Work felt fake. Conversations felt fake. Even my own thoughts felt rehearsed. I needed silence. Real silence. Not city silence. I mean the kind of silence where you can hear your own pulse in your ears. That's when my coworker, Dan, mentioned the island. Tiny place off the coast of Maine. He described it like it was the most boring place on Earth. No nightlife, no tourists after sunset. Ferry stops running by 9. If you stay overnight, you'll basically have the island to yourself. To myself, that sounded perfect. Too perfect. I found the rental that night. A standalone cottage, right on the shoreline, available immediately. The price was weirdly low, like suspiciously low. But when you're exhausted, lonely, and trying not to think about certain things, you don't question good deals. You grab them. I booked 2 nights. Didn't tell anyone except Dan. And even that was casual. The ferry ride over was quiet. There were maybe 10 other people on board. Families, mostly. A couple tourists with cameras. The island looked harmless. Pretty, even. Small harbor. A pub near the dock. A general store. A couple lobster boats tied up. The kind of place where nothing bad is supposed to happen. By sunset, most people boarded the return ferry. I stayed. Watching the boat leave felt strange, like I had just sealed myself inside something. It sat about a 10-minute walk from the dock. Not part of a neighborhood. Not near any other houses. Just alone. 3 sides were surrounded by thick brush that pressed up against the walls. The front faced the ocean. 1 single window, thin curtain, too thin. The inside was basic. 1 bed, tiny kitchenette. Bathroom barely larger than a closet. And then something small caught my attention. The locks. The deadbolt looked new. The chain lock too. Recently installed. On a cottage that isolated. That felt unnecessary. I told myself I was overthinking. I ate at the small pub near the ferry landing. The bartender was a woman in her 30s. Friendly enough. Until I mentioned where I was staying. She paused. Just for a second. "Down by the East Brush?" she asked. "Yeah," she forced a smile. "Not many people stay overnight there." I laughed. "That's kind of the point." She didn't laugh back. On my walk back to the cottage, I passed something I hadn't noticed earlier. A small cave cut into the rocky shoreline about 100 yards from the cottage. Inside was a dock, and tied to it was a blue motorboat. Not a lobster boat, not a fishing vessel. Just a small, quiet, outboard motorboat. It looked out of place. I stood there maybe 10 seconds. No lights on, no one visible. I shrugged it off. I got back around 10:30 p.m., locked the deadbolt, locked the chain, checked them twice. Then my phone wouldn't charge, tried every outlet. Nothing. Battery, 12%. I laughed at first. Of course my phone dies the one night I'm completely alone on an island. But I had my ferry ticket. I didn't need it. Still, I didn't like being unreachable. Battery hit 5%, then 3%, then it died. The room felt smaller after that. There are no streetlights on that side of the island, no traffic, no distant hum, just wind and ocean and brush scraping softly against the walls. When you're not used to real silence, your brain fills it with things. Every little sound becomes something. A footstep, a whisper, breathing. I told myself I was being dramatic. I lay down, and surprisingly, I fell asleep fast. That's what my watch said when I woke up. I don't know what pulled me out of sleep, but I was instantly alert, and then I heard it. Footsteps, on gravel, slow, heavy, right outside the door, not passing by, not distant, right there. 1 step. Pause, another step. Long pause. like whoever it was listening. I froze, didn't breathe. The footsteps stopped. Silence, complete silence. So quiet I could hear my own pulse. After maybe 30 seconds, I shifted slightly in bed. The footsteps resumed, closer. They approached the door directly, stopped, right in front of it. My heart was pounding so loud I was convinced they could hear it. Then a beam of light flashed through the thin curtain. A flashlight, sweeping, searching. The light moved slowly across the door, across the window, then clicked off. The handle rattled. Once, twice, slowly at first, then harder. The deadbolt held. 3 seconds of silence. Then, bang! The first hit shook the door. Bang! Again. Bang! Harder. I flinched with every impact. My brain snapped out of paralysis. I jumped out of bed and crouched beside the door, pressing my weight against it. I don't know why. Instinct, adrenaline. I was ready for it to burst open. But it didn't. The banging stopped. Silence again. And then a voice, right on the other side of the door. Calm, almost amused. "I know you're in there. Leo." My blood went cold. I don't know how I didn't scream. I don't know how I didn't answer. He knew my name, not guessed it. Said it confidently, like he'd rehearsed it. Footsteps moved along the side of the cottage. Slow, dragging, like he was tracing the walls. Circling me, taunting. I could hear gravel crunching outside the bathroom wall. Then, along the back. Then near the window. I stayed crouched, too afraid to move. Minutes passed, or hours, I have no idea. Then the footsteps retreated, toward the shoreline, toward the cave. And then, I heard it. An engine, a small outboard motor. Starting up, idling, then slowly pulling away into open water. The sound faded, and I didn't sleep again. The second it was bright enough to see, I opened the door. My hands were shaking. The gravel told the whole story. Heavy boot prints, circling the cottage, multiple times, deep impressions, a straight line leading toward the cave dock, ending at the waterline. No return prints. He came by boat. For me, specifically. I left that island within the hour, returned the key. The property owner didn't look surprised, didn't ask questions, just nodded. That bothered me more than anything. And here's the thing I haven't told anyone. 3 days before, I booked that island. I got a message from a private account. Just 2 words. "Nice try." I ignored it, blocked it, forgot about it, until that night, until someone stood outside my door and said my name. I didn't tell anyone the full story at first. Not the bartender's reaction, not the boat, not the voice. Especially not the voice. I just told Dan someone tried to break into the cottage. He went pale when I said that. "Did you report it?" he asked. I told him no, because what was I supposed to say?
"Hi, someone took a private boat to a random island and said my name outside my door." They'd ask how he knew my name. And I didn't have an answer for that. I said I wasn't running from the law. That's technically true, but that doesn't mean I didn't give anyone a reason to hate me. From 18 to 21, I ran with the wrong crowd, not violent criminals, not drug dealers. Just people who made money by doing things that weren't exactly legal. Identity scraping, phishing kits, selling information on small private forums, nothing huge, but enough to burn bridges, enough to screw over strangers who didn't deserve it, and sometimes not strangers. When I decided to leave that behind, I ghosted everyone, changed numbers, deleted accounts, moved apartments, new job, knew everything. Or at least I thought. 3 days before the island trip, I got that message, from a blank account. No profile picture, no followers, just 2 words, "Nice try." I remember staring at it for a full minute, trying to convince myself it was random. Spam. Wrong person. But deep down I knew. It felt targeted, like someone watching from far away. I blocked it. And then booked the island trip that same night. Like running would fix something. After the island I started noticing things, little things. Things that are easy to dismiss. A car parked down my street 2 nights in a row, Different time, same dark blue sedan. Could have been coincidence, my Wi-Fi randomly disconnecting. Probably provider issues. Someone hanging up when I answered. Telemarketer. You can rationalize anything if you try hard enough. But the fear doesn't listen to logic. I couldn't stop thinking about how calm the property owner was when I returned the key. So I called him 3 days later. I told him I forgot something and asked if anyone had accessed the cottage since I left. He hesitated. Then said no. I asked if he'd had break-ins before. Another pause. Then he said something that still sticks with me. People don't usually come here by accident. I asked what that meant. He said, it's not visible from the main path. You have to know where it is. My stomach dropped. The cave dock wasn't visible from the ferry, you'd have to already know about it. Or scout it beforehand. I went back online and looked up local boat registrations. That small blue motorboat haunted me. I searched marina listings, rental docks, Facebook marketplace posts, anything. And then I found something strange. A small blue motorboat had been reported stolen from a nearby harbor 2 weeks before my trip. Case never solved. No updates. The description matched almost exactly. Outboard motor. Scratches on the left side. Blue hull. The dock near my cottage was private, not part of any public marina. So whoever used it either, A. owned property nearby, B. had scoped it out before, C. knew it was there. About a week after the island, I was cleaning out my backpack. There was sand inside one of the side pockets. Not beach sand. Not the fine gray sand from Maine. This was darker. Thicker. Almost black. And mixed in were tiny flecks of something metallic. I froze. Because I hadn't brought the bag down to the cave dock. I never stepped near that boat after noticing it. The only time my bag left my sight on the island was, at the pub. When I went to the bathroom. For maybe 3 minutes. What if he didn't track me to the island? What if he was already there? What if the cottage wasn't random? What if someone knew I was coming before I even arrived? Dan was the only person I told. But booking confirmations get emailed. Property owners have access. Employees at the ferry see passenger lists. The bartender knew exactly which side of the island I was staying on. East Brush? She'd said. Like it was known for something. I woke up at 3:07 a.m. to a notification. Unknown number, no message. Just a missed FaceTime call. Profile picture blank. Call time, 2:58 a.m. Almost the same time I'd woken up on the island. Coincidence? Has to be. Right? I blocked it. Didn't sleep again. I keep replaying that voice in my head. It wasn't angry, it wasn't rushed, it sounded patient. Like someone who knew they didn't need to break in. Like someone who was proving a point. I know you're in there, Leo, not, I know you're in there, but my name. Clear. Confident. Almost amused. That wasn't random intimidation, that was personal. About a month after the island, I came home from work. And something was off, nothing stolen, nothing broken, but my bedroom window was unlocked. I never unlock it. Ever. And on my desk was a small object. A seashell. Dark. Almost black, with tiny flecks of metallic shimmer in it. The same kind I saw in that sand. I live 3 states away from Maine. I didn't call the police, because what would I say? Someone left me a seashell? I'd sound insane. So instead, I started sleeping with a knife under my pillow, I changed my locks, installed cameras, quit my job, moved apartments again. But here's the worst part. The cameras? They caught nothing, no one entering, no one leaving, no movement near the window, nothing. But the seashell was real. I still have it. Locked in a drawer. I don't know why I kept it, maybe proof, maybe a reminder, or maybe because a small part of me believes this isn't over, because sometimes, around 2 or 3 am, I wake up, and I swear I hear something outside, not footsteps. Not yet. Just gravel shifting. Slow, measured, patient. I lasted 11 days in the new apartment before something else happened. 11 quiet days. No weird calls. No cars outside. No notifications at 3 am. I almost convinced myself it had stopped. That maybe the seashell was a coincidence, that maybe I was losing it. Then the package arrived. No return address, just my name, full name. Spelled correctly. Most people misspell my last name. This wasn't wrong. The box was small, about the size of a shoebox. Lightweight. I didn't open it right away. I stared at it on my kitchen counter for maybe 10 minutes. Then I grabbed a knife and cut the tape. Inside was newspaper, local Maine newspaper. Dated the week I was on the island. My stomach tightened. I kept digging. At the bottom of the box was a printed photo, my cottage, taken at night. From outside. Through the thin curtain. You could see my silhouette on the bed. Timestamped, 2:11 am. 2 minutes before I woke up to the footsteps. I dropped the photo. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit down. On the back of the photo, written in black marker, "You looked peaceful." The photo wasn't taken from directly in front of the window, it was slightly off to the right. Which meant whoever took it wasn't standing on the gravel path. They were standing near the brush, hidden. Watching, for how long? 5 minutes? 10? An hour? Did they watch me sleep before trying the door? This time I did go to the police. I brought the box. The photo. The newspaper. They took it seriously at first. A detective asked about enemies, ex-girlfriends, debt, criminal history. I kept things vague. Just some bad people from my past. They asked if I had names. I lied and said no. Because I genuinely didn't know who this could be. Most of the people I'd cut ties with weren't violent. Petty criminals, sure. But stalking across state lines, breaking into apartments, that felt different. Calculated. Personal. Police dusted the box, no usable prints. They checked my apartment building cameras. Nothing. No one leaving a package. It was placed outside my door between 2 Coke and 4 p.m. During broad daylight. Right under a security camera. And somehow, no one visible in the footage. The detective said it was likely someone wearing a hat, hood, mask, maybe standing in a blind spot. But I watched the footage myself. There was no blind spot near my door. It was a clear hallway. Clear frame. Clear view. And yet the package appears in one frame, and wasn't there in the previous one. No glitch, no cut. Just, there. A few nights later, I couldn't sleep. So I did something I should have done weeks earlier. I wrote down every single person who might have a reason to find me. I made a list of names from my old life. There were 8 people who might care enough. Most of them lived nowhere near Maine. Except one. Caleb. He was the only one who'd ever threatened me directly. We used to work together scraping personal data and flipping it on forums. When I bailed, I took some client contacts with me, not intentionally, but he thought I did it on purpose. He messaged me months after I left, called me a snake. Said, "You can't just disappear." I blocked him too. Last known location? Portland, Maine. My chest tightened. Portland was less than 2 hours from that island. I searched his social media, most accounts deleted, but one old Facebook profile still existed. Inactive. Last visible post from over a year ago. A photo. Him on a small blue motorboat. Smiling. Caption. Best way to clear your head. My heart felt like it stopped. The boat in the picture, same shade of blue. Same outboard motor, same scratch on the left side. I zoomed in until the image blurred. It was the same boat, it had to be. I found an old number linked to him, probably disconnected, but I called anyway. It rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Then someone answered, no greeting, just breathing. Slow, measured, my throat went dry. Caleb. Silence. Then a faint chuckle. Low. Almost distorted. You picked a quiet place. Click. Call ended. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't random. This wasn't paranoia. He had followed me. Tracked me. Somehow. But here's what didn't make sense. How did he know about the island? I never posted it. Never texted anyone except Dan. Unless he had access to more than I thought. Caleb was better than me. Smarter with tech. More patient. If he wanted to monitor me digitally, he could. If he planted spyware on my laptop months ago, I'd never know. If he had access to my emails, booking confirmations, receipts, everything. I checked my laptop that night, ran every scan I could find, nothing showed up. But that didn't mean anything. The best ones don't get caught. 2:13 am again, 2 nights later. I woke up at 2:13 am, not to a sound, but to light. Red light, blinking. My smoke detector. It was blinking red, slow, steady. I sat up, confused. It had never blinked before. Then I realized something. There was a second red light. Lower, near my bedroom door. Tiny, faint, blinking. I got out of bed slowly, walked toward it, and my stomach dropped. It wasn't a light, it was a reflection, from outside. Through the peephole. Someone was standing in the hallway, covering the peephole, blocking it, just enough that the hallway light couldn't pass through. I froze. Didn't breathe, didn't move. Then I heard it. Very faint. Very calm. Through the door. I know you're awake, Leo. I didn't respond. I didn't move. After about 30 seconds, the shadow shifted, footsteps moved away. Elevator dinged at the end of the hall. And silence returned. Police found nothing again. No one on cameras. No one on entry logs. No suspicious vehicles. Nothing. But I heard him. Clear as day. The same calm tone. The same patience. He wasn't trying to break in, not yet. He was proving something. He could reach me anywhere. Island. Apartment. Anywhere. And here's the part that keeps me up at night. When I checked my phone the next morning, there was a new message. Unknown number. Just one sentence. Next time, I won't knock. Wonderstore. 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 Understore. End of part 3. After the hallway incident, I stopped pretending this would blow over. It wasn't harassment. It wasn't a prank. It was control. He was controlling when I slept, when I panicked, when I felt safe. And he was enjoying it. I stopped reacting. No more police reports. No more calling unknown numbers. If he wanted fear, I wasn't going to feed it to him. Instead, I did something else. I booked another trip. Not Maine, not an island, just a random Airbnb cabin 2 hours north. Different state, different name. I created a brand new email, brand new booking account. Used a prepaid debit card I bought with cash. Didn't tell Dan. Didn't tell anyone. If Caleb, or whoever this was, showed up there, I'd have confirmation he had deep access. If not, maybe Maine was coincidence. I didn't believe that, but I needed proof. It was isolated, single dirt road, no neighbors within half a mile. Wooded area, poor cell service. I arrived at 6 p.m., checked every window, every closet, under the bed. I even checked the attic hatch. Nothing, no signs of tampering, no hidden cameras, no footprints outside. I almost laughed at myself. Maybe I was spiraling. Maybe I was giving one creepy incident too much power. I made dinner. Sat on the couch. Forced myself to relax. 1:58 am. I was awake, couldn't sleep, just staring at the ceiling. Listening. The woods are never silent, there's always wind, branches, animals, but around 1:58 am, everything stopped. No wind, no insects, nothing, that same unnatural silence from the island. My chest tightened. Then I heard it. Not footsteps this time. An engine. Far away at first. Then closer. Low rumbling. Slow, like a vehicle crawling down the dirt road. No one should have been out there at 2 am. Headlights cut through the trees, sweeping across the cabin walls. I didn't move. Didn't turn on lights. The vehicle stopped outside. Engine idling. Then turned off. Silence again. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might black out. A car door opened. Closed. Gravel crunching. Slow, measured, not rushed, just like the island, just like the hallway. He wanted me awake. Aware. Terrified. Footsteps approached the front porch. Wood creaked. A shadow crossed the small window beside the door, then a knock. Not aggressive, not frantic, just 3 slow taps. Tap. 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 I didn't respond. A few seconds passed, then the handle turned. Locked, another pause, then his voice. Soft, clear, almost amused. You're getting smarter. My blood went ice cold. Different location, different state, different account. And yet, here he was. This time, he didn't bang the door, he didn't push hard, he just stood there. Silent. For what felt like 5 full minutes. Then, footsteps moved off the porch, around the side of the cabin. I grabbed the kitchen knife, heart racing. Every window had thin curtains, he could see inside if he wanted. I crouched low near the hallway. Then, glass shattered, not the front. The back window. I flinched so hard I dropped the knife. He wasn't playing anymore, he was escalating. I grabbed the knife again, ran toward the back hallway. Another crash. He was climbing in, boots scraping wood floor, heavy breathing. Inside. He was inside. I turned the corner into the kitchen, knife shaking in my hand, and saw him, tall, broad shoulders. Dark jacket, face partially covered, but not fully. Enough exposed that I saw his eyes and I recognized them. It wasn't Caleb, it wasn't anyone from my old crew, it was Dan. My co-worker, the one who told me about the island. He looked almost disappointed, like I'd ruined something. You shouldn't have looked into the boat, he said calmly. My brain couldn't process it. What? He stepped closer, slowly. I didn't expect you to connect that. The boat. The blue motorboat. Caleb's old photo. My chest tightened. You stole it, he tilted his head slightly. I borrowed it. Dan had access to everything. He worked it at our job. He helped set up my workstation. He'd had physical access to my laptop. He knew when I booked the island because he saw the email confirmation. He knew the cabin location because he'd installed a keylogger months ago. The nice try message, him. The FaceTime calls, him. The seashell, him. All of it. My legs felt weak. Why? I whispered. He didn't answer right away, he just smiled slightly. Because you wanted to disappear, he took another step. I wanted to see how far you'd run, he lunged first. Fast, way faster than I expected. I barely dodged. The knife slashed across his sleeve, not deep enough, he slammed into me. We crashed into the kitchen counter. The knife flew across the room. He was stronger, he pinned me against the wall, forearm pressing into my throat. You should have stayed on the island, he muttered. Black spots filled my vision. I reached blindly behind me. My hand hit something heavy. Cast iron skillet. I swung it as hard as I could, connected with his temple. He stumbled back. Dazed. I didn't wait. I ran, out the front door. Barefoot. Into the woods. Didn't look back, didn't stop running. Branches tearing at my arms. Feet slamming into roots. I heard him behind me at first, then nothing. Police found him an hour later, still inside the cabin. Bleeding. Alive. In his trunk? Rope. Zip ties, duct tape, and printed photos, of me. From work. From my apartment, from outside my building. He'd been watching for months, maybe longer. The police found spyware on my laptop, professional level stuff, not amateur, he'd planned everything. The island wasn't random, he owned property near that brush area. The cave dock? Private access. He used the stolen boat so it couldn't be traced back to him. The bartender? She knew him. That's why she looked at me like that. She probably thought I was meeting him there. He confessed to most of it. But not everything. He never explained why he picked me, just said. You were already trying to erase yourself. I just helped. He's in prison now. At least that's what I'm told. But sometimes, around 2 a.m., I still wake up. Expecting footsteps. Expecting gravel crunching. Expecting that calm voice outside my door. Because once someone proves they can reach you anywhere, that feeling never leaves. Dan didn't plead insanity. That's the first thing that surprised me. He didn't cry, didn't break down, didn't even look ashamed. He pleaded guilty to stalking, unlawful surveillance, breaking and entering, attempted assault, possession of illegal spyware, and theft related to the boat. Open and shut. The evidence was overwhelming. The spyware alone would have buried him. They found months of logs, keystrokes, passwords, booking confirmations, search history, even drafts of emails I never sent. He'd been watching me digitally long before the island. During the sentencing hearing, the prosecutor asked him directly. Why him? Dan finally looked at me. Not angry, not emotional, just analytical, like I was an experiment. You ever notice, he said calmly, how some people slowly erase themselves? No one responded. He continued. He deleted old accounts, changed numbers, Stopped talking about his past, started using cash more often, started looking over his shoulder. My throat tightened. He was already disappearing. I just wanted to see how far he'd go. The judge cut him off, but the damage was done. Because he was right about one thing. I had been trying to disappear. Before he ever touched my laptop, before the island, before the seashell. I had already been looking over my shoulder. He got 12 years, no parole eligibility for 8, restraining order, no contact. Maximum security facility 2 states away. Everyone told me it was over, that I could relax, that I could move on. But they didn't understand something. The island wasn't the first time I'd felt watched, it was just the first time I had proof. There's something I didn't tell investigators, something small, something that didn't fit. When they processed Dan's car, they found rope, zip ties, duct tape, but they never found a seashell. And I never saw one in his apartment during the evidence photos. Maybe he threw it away, maybe. But the sand inside my backpack? That darker, almost black sand with metallic flecks. The lab tested it. It didn't match the Maine shoreline, it didn't match the cave dock, it didn't match the dirt road at the cabin, it didn't match anywhere in that region. The detective told me that casually, like it was irrelevant. But it stuck with me. I moved again. New state, new job, new everything. Legally changed my phone number, bought a brand new laptop, never logged into old accounts. Cut ties with anyone connected to that time in my life. For a while, nothing happened, no calls, no messages, no footsteps. No shadows. I started sleeping again, stopped checking windows, stopped jumping at hallway noises. Life felt normal, almost. 7 months after sentencing, I received a letter. Handwritten. From the correctional facility. Return address Dan. I almost didn't open it, but I needed closure. Inside was a single page, no greeting, no signature, just this, you're still missing it, that's it, nothing else. I stared at that sentence for hours. Missing what? I replayed everything, the island, the dock, the bartender, the boat, the cabin, the spyware, the seashell, then something hit me. Hard. The night on the island. The engine started after the footsteps circled the cottage. I assumed it was him leaving. But I never actually saw the boat depart, I only heard an engine. Sound carries strangely over water, especially at night. What if that engine wasn't the same boat? What if someone else had been near the shoreline that night? Someone watching him. Watching me. 2 weeks after receiving that letter, I was scrolling late at night. Mindless habit. And I saw something that made my blood run cold. Small article. Local Maine news. A body recovered near a private cave dock on a small island. Estimated time of death? Roughly 1 year earlier. Cause? Blunt force trauma. The article mentions something strange. The body was discovered after a recent storm shifted debris near the shoreline. It had been partially concealed. The dock owner had reported hearing suspicious engine activity around that time the previous year. The dock owner. Dan. The estimated time of death matched the exact week I was on the island. My hands started shaking. If there was a body there that week. And Dan was circling my cottage that night. Then who started the engine? Who left by boat? Because according to the report, the victim had defensive wounds, like they'd fought back. And here's the detail that destroyed me. The victim was approximately 6'6". Exceptionally tall. North Brother Island. That story I read years ago about the tall figure in the dark room. 6.5 feet, facing the wall. Motionless. And then the moaning sound behind them near the kayaks. That stuck with me for years. Tall figures in dark abandoned spaces. It's irrational how the brain connects things, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Dan was obsessed with control, with experiments, with pushing people to their limits. What if I wasn't the first? What if that island had already been his hunting ground? What if the reason the bartender looked at me strangely was because someone else had stayed in that cottage before me and never made it home? The article didn't name the victim. Ongoing investigation. Limited details. But the dock location matched. The timeline matched. And Dan's letter, you're still missing it. Maybe he meant this. Maybe he wanted me to realize I wasn't just a target. I was almost something worse. I still wake up around 2 am sometimes, not every night, but enough. I check the locks, I check the windows. Then I sit in silence. Listening. Waiting for gravel crunching. Waiting for 3 slow taps. Tap. 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 Nothing ever comes. But the fear doesn't leave. Because here's what I can't shake. Dan's sentence was 12 years. But the body on that island, that investigation never resulted in charges, no suspects named, no updates, and sometimes, very rarely, when I close my eyes, I hear 2 different sets of footsteps in my memory. Not 1. 2. One circling the cottage, and 1, further out near the shoreline. Standing still. Watching. I never went back to Maine. And I never will, but I still have that seashell. Locked in a drawer. Dark. Almost black. With tiny metallic flecks. Sometimes I take it out. Just to prove to myself it's real, and every time I do, I wonder if the person who left it there was the same person who started that engine, or someone who never left the island at all.